Now, I know that a reading from the Bible, when it's not a special Jewish or Christian holiday, might seem unorthodox here at USR. But remember what Mark Twain said about the Bible. It's full of interest. It has noble poetry in it, and some clever fables, and some blood-drenched history, and some good morals, and a wealth of obscenity, and upwards of 1,000 lies. This reading is a fine fabulation that has a lot to say to us about our own situation today, so I beg you to listen with an open mind. I want to say a little more to introduce the story, to give credit to a great preacher who inspired my choice of this text. I'm quoting from William Sloane Coffin, who served, among other institutions, the Central Intelligence Agency, Yale University, Sane Freeze, now Peace Action, and the Riverside Church. This is what he said. Many centuries ago, after a long, tear-stained trek, the children of Israel finally arrive at the borders of the promised land, and it looks as if they're going to make it. And the spies are sent out, and when they come back, predictably, there's a majority report and there's a minority report.
The reading is from Numbers 13:26 to 14:4. It's from the New Revised Standard Updated Edition. And they came to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation of the Israelites in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. They brought back word to them and to all the congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. And they reported to him and said, "We came to the land to which you sent us. It flows with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. Yet the people who live in the land are strong, and the towns are fortified and very large. And besides, we saw the descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in the land of the Negeb. The Hittites, the Jebusites, and the Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live by the sea and along the Jordan." But Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, "Let us go up at once and occupy it, for we are well able to overcome it." Then the men who had gone up with him said, "We are not able to go up against this people, for they are stronger than us." So they brought to the Israelites an unfavorable report of the land that they had spied out, saying, The land that we have gone through as spies is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people that we saw in it are of great size. Then he saw the Nephilim, the Anakites, come from the Nephilim, and to ourselves we seemed like grasshoppers, and so we seemed to them. Then all the congregation raised a loud cry, and the people wept that night. And all the Israelites complained against Moses and Aaron. The whole congregation said to them, "Would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would that we had died in this wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us into this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and our little ones will become plunder. Would it not be better for us to go back to Egypt?" So they said to one another, "Let us choose a captain and go back to Egypt." So ends the reading.
How many of you participated in the No Kings rally yesterday? Raise your hands. That's more than half of us. Yes, awesome. Janice and I went to Waldwick. There we saw Holly Nolan, John and Kim Nolan, Libby Ortiz, and Paul Rosengren. Janice made a sign: "We love America, no kings, we love democracy." We sang, "This land is your land, this land is my land." We chanted. I blatted on my hunting horn. We celebrated. It was great to be together. Now, there were a couple of counter demonstrators who drove or jogged by repeatedly shouting at us to go home, and Janice responded to them, "God bless you," as though they had just sneezed. My favorite chant from this and many other demonstrations is, "This is what democracy looks like." wonder if any of you chanted that in your rallies, someplace where you were. Raise your hand if you did. Okay, again, that was a reliable piece of what we did yesterday. I wonder, and this is where I'm getting a little audacious, I wonder if it's possible in a humanist intellectual community like this on a Sunday morning for me to provoke you, and for me even, to try it this morning. I know we're not used to doing such things in a Sunday service. It is hard enough for me to join when it's a group of people protesting on the streets. Still, we remember and we cling to something called the fifth principle. It is the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregation and in society at large. So I declare here and now that it is kosher for us to chant in the Sunday service. But is there anyone who dares to start it? This is what democracy looks like.
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 Don't give up now. This is what democracy looks like. What democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Thank you. All right. I know our trumpeter had to leave to go to another gig, so there we were. Now, as I said at the start of the reading, it was a sermon that I heard in Riverside Church by William Sloane Coffin that inspired me to ask you to listen to this story from Numbers today. I can actually hear his voice in my ears of memory saying, "We seemed to ourselves like grasshoppers, and so we seemed to them." Speaking of the majority and minority report from the spies sent out to surveil the land, Coffin said, "The minority report is prophetic, full of hope, which we can translate as a passion for the possible. It urges the children of Israel to strain forward to that which lies ahead. By contrast, the majority report is pragmatic. The caution it counsels, reflecting the cowardice of those submitting it. It speaks of giants in the land, descendants of Anak, the long-necked one. And the key sentence reads, "We seem to ourselves as grasshoppers, and so we seem to them." In the face of authoritarian threat and the power of the presidency, it might seem that our No Kings rallies really can't affect the doom loop in which our democracy is now apparently engaged. What could a million grasshoppers do to the Orange Burger King if Congress will not confront him? Even the biblical plague of locusts did not liberate the enslaved children of Israel. And I dread to think that we have to hope for the results of the midterm elections. Does it all depend on a debilitated democracy with voting rights under threat and voter apathy surging like a tsunami? Let me ask another show of hands survey question. How many of you believe it is our civic duty to vote? Raise your hand. Okay, I don't see anybody sitting on their hands on this one. On surveys, 90% of Americans share that conviction. It's even more than the 74% of surveys who say that it's the duty of adult children to take care of their elderly parents. Think about that. Well, 74% that they say they should. Maybe they don't. People say that they like to vote. 3 out of 4 of us say we vote in presidential elections. 2 out of 3 say we vote even in local elections. Unfortunately, some of us are lying. It's easy to prove because whether we voted or not is public information. And of course, the actual voter turnout is well below those survey claims. So I'm not going to ask how many of us actually voted. But the Environmental Voter Project calculated that in 2024, if did not vote had been a presidential candidate, they would have beaten Donald Trump by 9.1 million votes. And they would have won 21 states, earning 265 electoral college votes to Trump's 175 and Harris's 98. As in most US elections, the real swing voter in 2024 was the person deciding between voting or not voting. And they overwhelmingly chose to stay home on Election Day. In New Jersey, Trump got about 2 million votes, Harris got 2.2 million, and 2.3 million voters who were eligible did not participate at all in this most basic exercise of democracy. As I've been going door to door as a candidate in Hawthorne for local council, seeking out potential voters, I meet all kinds of people, and it's a real delight to do this. I could almost imagine myself being a door-to-door evangelist. But without a cause, what would I say? I find that people are almost always polite, even if they're busy working from home or changing a baby or even eating dinner. Even those who tell me they are planning to vote for the other party are often willing to take my literature because I've made the effort to knock on their door and reach out. I love them all as my neighbors, but the ones I cannot understand are those who tell me they just don't vote. A few have religious objections, and I respect that. Some are angry at both political parties, and I understand that. But most of them just seem plain apathetic. We Unitarian Universalists have a conscientious commitment to democracy. At its 2019 General Assembly, the Unitarian Universalist Association adopted a statement of conscience, our Democracy Uncorrupted, which affirms the importance of democracy as an ideal and identifies historic and current dynamics that restrict its practices and its beneficiaries. Democracy, the UUA officially declares, is an end in itself, an ethical ideal, a moral and spiritual way of relating to one another. Sadly, many of our democratic institutions have been corrupted into being merely a means for giving powerful interests the appearance of legitimacy. This is true, but it's difficult to hear. In my own spiritual practice, I try to listen to voices that I find inconvenient, and there's a lot to challenge us UUs in this statement of conscience. I commend it to your study. It would challenge us as individuals, as a congregation, and as a denomination. I'm proud to say that at the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood, our democracy team is rising to that challenge. It was formed in the spring of 2024, led by Marilyn Maney and Christine O'Neill. The team has been actively promoting participation in our democracy through postcard campaigns by the UU The Vote and Reclaim Our Vote. The team's associated with the Workers' Circle, a Jewish social justice organization that guides and nourishes nonpartisan democratic activities. They've educated themselves on the SAVE Act and the First Amendment and learned from a presentation by the League of Women Voters. Their work is ongoing. You can learn about it after the service in coffee hour, read your announcements in the newsletter, and follow up with them, join in their efforts. One of the ways the democracy team sought to motivate the entire congregation was through a signed commitment to democracy in August of 2024. It's worth reading in full because it expresses a promise many of us made back then, which is just as important today. Here's what we said. As Unitarian Universalists, we have a deep commitment to the democratic process. We hold dear our right to speaking and voting our conscience. We have committed ourselves collectively to dismantling racism, and we envision and work towards a world with peace, justice, and liberty for all. Here at the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood, our administration building honors the memory of Reverend James Reeb, a Boston-based UU minister who traveled to Selma, Alabama in 1965 to help secure voting rights for Black people living in the South. He was viciously attacked by white supremacists, later dying from his injuries. Martin Luther King Jr. gave the stirring eulogy at his funeral. Reverend Reeb recognized, as we do today, that democracy is sacred and that every voice is needed. Every voice matters. Unfettered access to the ballot is essential to ensuring that every voice is heard. In that spirit and in recognition of the vigilance it takes to nurture and protect participatory democracy, we pledge to propel our faith and our communities to a world where all of our communities thrive by bringing our democratic values to life in the crucial struggle to build a genuine multiracial democracy, by acting in collaboration with community allies to strengthen and protect voting rights and encourage voting in coming elections, by actively opposing false messaging in electoral politics, by promoting truth and amplifying verified sources, by supporting programs that foster civic engagement, coalition building, and voting, by weaving participatory democracy into USR as well as society at large, and by inviting others to consider a faith that encourages hope-filled action. We can be proud of that statement. But what then can we say to people who do not vote? What might we say to any UUs who are going to sit out the elections this year in New Jersey? Despite our commitment to democratic values, some of us won't manage to cast a ballot in the race for governor or more local elections by November 4. It doesn't help to should on people or try to make them feel guilty about voting, but I wonder if any of you have ideas about how to motivate that marginal voter to get out there and make the simple effort to get to the polling place. I don't want to hear a speech, but if you have a word or two, a phrase, how can we do this? What would motivate somebody that you know who told you, I just don't vote? Shaking your head? What can we say? Yeah, 10 votes can make a difference. So your vote could count. Isn't there any issue you care about? Yeah. Some people say, oh, I'm just fine. Or I don't want to. Yeah. This is work that I think we all need to engage in, this kind of thinking. Yeah. Okay, make it easier by, like your friend in Philadelphia did, giving a ride to somebody, helping them get to the vote. I talked yesterday with a 91-year-old man who only is going to need a ride. If his daughter can't take him, I'll do that myself. Okay. I encourage you to continue this conversation over coffee down the hallway. Oh, it's in here. There. Thank you for correcting me, my dear. Reverend Kimberly Debus, who has preached here at USR, maintains a website focused on UU hymns. In one of her posts, she says this: there's one thing very true about democracy, it isn't passive. You have to speak up, you have to vote, you have to act. Richard Lamb, former governor of Colorado, puts it this way: America is the continual search for justice and fairness. Greatness is not a guarantee, it is a continuing challenge. It must be won anew in every generation. The log arc of history bends toward justice, but it needs help, your help. She goes on, I'm not saying we all have to run for public office or mount major protests. I mean, you can if you want, but this isn't the real call. The real call of our faith is social action, right next door. The call of our faith says, in true democratic fashion, we must listen to our neighbor, who may be different from us, or have needs we cannot know just by looking at them. Who is your neighbor? Are they doing okay financially? Are they battling discrimination because of race, creed, gender, or sexual orientation? Are they hurting emotionally, hurting physically? What is your neighbor's pain? It won't be the same as your pain or your other neighbor's pain, but your neighbor's voice has a right to be heard, and your neighbor's needs have a right to be met. Can you help? Can you make your block, your street, your community more democratic? Those are the real questions, I think, of democracy. Those Israelites in Numbers 13 and 14 had reached the border of the land that future generations would name promised. But most of the spies came back terrified. The giants are too great, they said. We are like grasshoppers in our own eyes. Only Caleb and Joshua dared to stand up and say, we can do this. Let us go up at once. The people stood at a crossroads between fear and courage, between resignation and action. And that's where we stand today, staring at the vastness of injustice, the complexity of politics, the fatigue of endless division, and wondering if what we do can possibly make a difference. Like the Israelites, we can turn away from the challenge, hoping for a leader to take us back to a place of safety where democracy happens all by itself and we don't have to get out there and make anything happen. That's democracy in action. Or we can see that if we stick our necks out and get organized, we become the powerful giants that would-be caudillos faint in front of. That is democracy in action. But we must stick our necks out. That's how the descendants of Anak became giants. They had long necks, and we need to stick ours out as well. Risk something. Move from hobbyism, which is talking, liking, and sharing online, to activism, rolling up our sleeves, knocking on doors, organizing neighbors, shaping the future together. This is exactly what I think No Kings was all about. Not just resistance to crown or tyranny, but learning again what it means to build democracy, not merely to defend it, but to build power for good, to make democracy more capable of serving justice, compassion, and liberty in our day. And so our challenge this morning is simple, if not easy. Let us be like Caleb and Joshua. Let us be among the few who say we can do this. Let us go up at once into our neighborhoods, our councils, our communities, and make real the promise that we chant. This is what democracy looks like. What'd you say? Amen. I got an amen. All right. Am I really at USR? Hallelujah. So remember that democracy is not a gift, but a promise we make to each other, to speak even when our voices tremble, to listen even when our hearts resist, to see the inherent worthiness of every neighbor. May our spirits be strengthened in the struggle for justice. May our love enlarge the circle of belonging, and may our hope unite us in the long work of freedom. Go in peace to build a better and more democratic world. And so may it be.